Good morning to all of you. Good morning. Can you, Venerable, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So, Buddhu Saranai, let me welcome all our participants, all Dayikas and Dayikas for the Poson Dharma Desana organized by the National Council for International Affairs of the All Ceylon Buddhist Congress, which will be conducted by Venerable Olande Ananda Thero. Today we have on our panel our Venerable Olande Ananda Thero. Then we have Mr. Deepal Suryarachi and myself. I think all of you all can see us. Poson Poya is of great significance to all Buddhists in Sri Lanka as it consecrates the arrival of Buddhism to Sri Lanka in the 3rd century BC during the reign of King Desana when he was converted to Buddhism. Emperor Ashoka of India, who took a great interest of spreading Buddhism, sent Venerable Mihindu, the enlightened monk, who was the son of Emperor Ashoka, to perform the important. This is the beginning of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, and today Sri Lanka is one of the main Buddhist countries in the world and have been able to ensure the sustainability of Buddhism in Sri Lanka and the world. Also, you can see the great importance that India had placed to Sri Lanka, and it's a very significant event that one has to talk. Today, the whole world is affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and Sri Lanka too has been affected, and we had a lockdown situation for more than 1.5 months. Today may be the first Sunday that you are having maybe without the lockdown, a free day, and I must offer our blessings to all of you who are present here for this Poson Dharma Desana, because I know that when people are set free, they always go, and very difficult to get hold of them. But in the times of lockdown, we find that everyone is at home and they are waiting to listen to webinars and Dharma Desanas. We are fortunate Sri Lanka has controlled the spread of the coronavirus, and the health authorities uh, with the government has worked tirelessly, even with risk to their own lives, and to them we offer our blessings for their safety and good health, and also to their families. As I said earlier, to celebrate Poson Poya, the National Council for International Affairs of the All Ceylon Buddhist Congress decided to organize this Dhamma sermon in the English language to enable Sri Lankans and foreigners to participate in this webinar. I must thank all my committee members who gave valuable suggestions, and we were able to agree on this and go ahead. You will realize that COVID-19 pandemic has brought to light the great importance of technology in conducting our activities, and this was seen as to how WhatsApp, Zoom, Teams, YouTube, Facebook, etc., SMS played a major role in all our activities to keep our life going during this lockdown. Hence, we launched this Dharma Desana via Zoom, which is now very common with Sri Lankans, and I'm happy Buddhists world over have made use of technology for their benefit to live a Buddhist life and follow Lord Buddha's teachings. Today, we are very thankful to Venerable Olande Ananda Thero, who readily agreed to deliver this Dhamma Desana this morning. His topic, Panchaniyama, the 5 laws of cause and effect, which I think will be of great practical importance and significance to your daily life and make you a good practitioner of Buddhism. I now have great pleasure to invite Mr. Deepal Suryarachi to introduce the Venerable Olande Ananda Thero.
Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar with Venerable Olande Ananda Thero. And it is a privilege and honor for me to introduce Venerable Ananda, who has been my Kalyanamita since 1980. And I had my first meditation lesson from him when he was at Vegirikanda Rock Hill Hermitage. And I still remember the first lesson he gave me. So after a few days of practicing, and he asked me, how are you doing? I said, today the morning meditation was good, the afternoon was not very good. So then he asked, were you observing your mind or were you comparing your mind? So that's a kind of direct, very simple approach that he takes in his teachings. And I think in the recent contemporary times, Venerable Ananda is probably the most traveled Sri Lankan Theravada monk to all corners of the world. And he speaks fluently a number of languages. Of course, Dutch, because he's from Holland, and Sinhala, English, German, French, and then I think many other languages he manages. I had the privilege of traveling with him to many parts of the world during our participation in an interreligious dialogue. One thing that I have come across is his ability to connect with people, and as a result, I have seen many occasions where people from other faiths have got interested in Buddhism, and some even converted eventually to become Buddhists simply because of his simple approach. Just a couple of years ago in France, we were with a family, and there was this little boy of about 13 years old, and he had a big discussion with him because when he discovered that he and Venerable Ananda both are Buddhists, then he asked, what is the difference between you and Deepa? Because you are wearing a different dress. Then he explained what a Buddhist monk is. And then that boy asked, then why did you become a monk? His simple answer, I wanted to see what it looks like to be a monk. And I tried by becoming. That's the kind of very simple answers that convince somebody. And I'm sure as a pupil, or the most senior pupil of late Gaudana Jnanisara Mahanayaka Thero, Venerable Ananda has extended a Roman service to spread the message of Dharma. And I had the privilege of coordinating his biography called, it is available even in Sinhala now, called Olande Kata Kasawakata, right? Olande Ananda Padamya, published by Sarasavi Bookshop, if you are interested. Without much of ado, may I please hand over the proceedings to Venerable Ananda. Over to you, Bante.
Thank you, Deepal, and also thank you, Professor Atulala, for these introductions. Welcome to all the participants in this webinar. It has to do with Poson, which is now 2 days ago, but never mind. This is regarding the occasion that Buddhism came to Sri Lanka. But really speaking, when Buddhist monks in Sri Lanka give a talk on the occasion of Poson, it's always about the significance of Poson. So I thought not to do that, but to choose a subject which is slightly different, and actually not many people know about it as such, this kind of subject. It is not coming from any sutra, but apparently it comes from different attakatas or commentaries in the Buddhist literature, where the Buddha is said to have mentioned these pancha niyamas, the 5 laws of cause and effect. So I would like to just mention these 5 laws first, and then one by one go into more details. So the 5 laws of cause and effect, the pancha niyama, are the bija niyama, utu niyama, kamma niyama, chitta niyama, and the dhamma niyama. Now the bija niyama, the word bija, as most of Sinhalese speaking people would know, means a seed. So it is the law of the seed. And in that regard, it is not only a seed like a mango seed or an apple seed or, any kind of fruit seed, but also the seed that we get from our forefathers, from our grandparents, from our own parents, and the kind of biological inheritance that we get from them, from what we call the parampara, the physical appearance sometimes, that people say, oh, you look like your mother, or you've got the earlobes of your father, or things like that. Sometimes also certain diseases may be present in case of the fact that our grandparents had certain diseases that we may inherit in a way. That also seems to come from the bija niyama. Now, when you put a seed of a mango into the ground and you give it enough sunshine and water and, fertilizer, then after some time, mango tree will start to come out of that seed. Not a banana or a citrus fruit, unless, of course, a kind of miracle would happen, which in some cases, I think in the ashram of Satya Sai Baba has happened, that in one tree there were 5 different kinds of fruits. But usually, the bija niyama means when there is one type of seed, it will lead to one type of tree or shrub or whatever it may be. And also with the seed of human beings will lead to a human being, the seed of a monkey will lead to a monkey, etc., etc. So that is how we have all these many, many streams that are guided by and controlled by this law of cause and effect, which we call the bija niyama. So it is a very important, a very important one of these 5 laws of cause and effect. Maybe we'll come back to it a little bit later, but number 2 would be the uttuniyama. Sometimes these laws are enumerated in a different order. So sometimes they put uttuniyama first and bija niyama second. But anyway, this is the order which the Pali Text Society, Rhys Davids, seems to have followed, and also Venerable Sangharakshita, the English monk who spent many years in the northeastern Himalayas. And anyway, the uttuniyama is the law of the climate or the environment. Uttuniyama means the influences of the, let's say, the physical climate, like if you live in a cold country or in a hot country, in a dry country or in a wet country, all those influences are there that determine part of your life, not the whole life, but still it is quite a strong influence, the physical climate. But not only the physical climate, it's also sometimes mentioned that these are the kind of non-living things that are influencing us. Geology and physiology and things like that. But not only that, it's also the society in which we grow up. Not only, let's say, the parents, who have a very big influence on our life, of course, and also the teachers that we may have in our school days, and the professors in our university training, etc., and also the peer groups, like friends, and maybe non-friends also influencing our life. So this uttuniyama includes the social and other kind of climates also. Now, for instance, the opportunities that one has in a very poor country. If one is born, let's say, in a very poor family or in a very poor country, that is also a kind of climatic or environmental influence. And if that is the case, then the chances that we have in that particular lifetime are also very minimal. If the poverty is there, then one cannot get a good education, cannot get a very good job, cannot have a very good future, etc., etc. So let's suppose you are born in a country at the moment, example comes to mind like Yemen. Yemen is at the moment one of the worst countries in the world. It hasn't always been, but now it is. And if you're born there as a child with malnutrition, etc., dying of hunger, then that means that utuniyama, that environmental factor, influences that lifetime. Whereas if you're born in, let's say, Los Angeles, in in a beautiful villa in some, let's say, beautiful area, and you have very rich parents, then your environmental influences of your peers and your teachers and the climate and even the different types of climates, the economic climate also. There are certain countries which are very, very strictly controlled, like, for instance, North Korea. If you're born there, you have very, very little opportunities. If you're born in South Korea, or in Singapore or some place like that, or even in Sri Lanka, you have many more opportunities. So that means the political climate and the economic climate, all these chances also count with the utuniyama. Therefore, this is also very important and many-faceted kind of influence on our life, not just the climate that you grow up in. Could be that if you move from Sri Lanka to northern Canada, for instance, that you are freezing in the winter and that you have to spend a lot of money on clothes and heating and that you don't like it sometimes there, but still you have other kind of possibilities. Well, all that can change your life, your own decision to change from one place to another. For one thing, there is another factor which we call kamma niyama, the influence of karma or kamma in Pali, that influences our lives. That comes from our own previous lives. Not just one life, not the immediate past life, but many, 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 many previous lives have accumulated what is called kamma and vipaka, or karma and its fruits. So the fact that you're born in a certain family sometimes also may have to do with karma, or that you're born in a certain country also has something to do with karma. Not that everything is karma. Some people seem to say everything is karma and everything is due to karma, and there's nothing that we can do because it is karma which decides. But that is not the Buddhist view. Karma is one of these 5 major factors that influence our life, and karma is something that is very important, but also very difficult to understand, because karmic activities have taken place from the time that we were born and until now, and it will continue, but also from before previous lives. And we don't even remember what we have eaten for lunch on the 2nd of January, for instance. Or have you? Well, maybe rice and curry, that could be. But and on the 14th of April, maybe it was kiribat. But a lot of things we don't remember that we have done in this lifetime, let alone that we remember what we have done in the past. There are, of course, some exceptional cases like spontaneous recollections of previous lives by children who remember their previous lives. Very recently, there was an interview on television with a boy from Devinura, Deondra, and he remembered that he was born in Kandy in a previous life. He died quite young, and they went in search. When he was only 2.5 years old, he said, I want to go to Kandy, and found his previous parents and the school where he went and things like that. So we have to, I think, believe in rebirth. Most, Buddhists and Hindus also believe in rebirth or reincarnation, although the Buddhists don't like that word reincarnation because we don't believe in an eternal, everlasting, unchanging soul. But still, according to the Buddha, the stream of consciousness that we have, we have body and mind, that stream of consciousness continues after death into a next life. And then it continues and continues again and again. And it goes back ad infinitum. We don't know when we can say that there was the first time that we had a body and mind going together. And but anyway, that doesn't mean that there have not been hundreds, if not thousands, of previous lives. So anyhow, in all those lifetimes, we have created good and bad, or maybe neutral, karma. Karma is considered to be either good or skillful in that sense, or it is sometimes unskillful or bad. And therefore we create our own sort of destiny or results by having more happiness if we have done a lot of good things in the past, or unhappiness if we have done a lot of bad things in the past. So, but the thing is, since we cannot remember all the things we have done in the past, and sometimes things happen in this lifetime which we do not understand. Why did this happen to me? Or why did this happen to him or to her? That person was such a good person, but bad things happened to him or her or to me. That we can't understand because these laws of karma and the results are so intricate, so difficult to understand, so complex, that the Buddha said it is an achinteya, an unthinkable. We cannot figure it out with our limited thoughts and limited linear thinking, and therefore sometimes we may have to just say, it must have been my karma. Maybe we don't remember what karma, but if we can be satisfied with that thought that it must have been my karma, then perhaps we can also let go of it and not to worry about it. Why did this happen to me? Why did this not happen to me? And things like that, always wanting to know something which is basically unknowable. So this karma niyama, or the law of karma, is very important and very complex, almost difficult and almost impossible to understand law, but that doesn't mean that it is not there. So then we have actually another of the 5 niyamas, namely the chitta niyama. The chitta niyama is the law of the mind. Chitta or hita in Sinhala, and chetana also comes from that word, and manasa. So chitta niyama is the law of the mind. That is, as human beings, we have, fortunately or unfortunately, more power to think than animals. Animals may also experience their life according to their previous karma, but they cannot do much about it. And it is said that human beings have the possibility to do something in this way or another way, or not to do something. And they can decide based on their own preference, or maybe because of certain ethical reasons not to do something, and maybe selfish or unselfish reasons, they can influence the way that their life is going, because we have a mind. The law of the mind is also not that easy to understand, but at least we can think about it. Well, when we think we want to do something, first there must be an intention, that is also part of the mind. Then there must be action, and then, well, there must be a kind of result in order to make it a complete karmic activity. So, but it is driven by the mind. The mind is the forerunner of everything. Mano kubangama dhamma, mano setta manomaya, did the Buddha say. So the mind is the forerunner. Before you can think anything, before you can say anything, and before you can do anything, you have to use your mind with an intention. So it is the intention which counts. Also in the case of the karma, it is the intention, whether it's a good karma or a bad karma. For instance, in the case of karma, to come back to this subject, to make the difference clear, we can think of a person who has a knife, and he wants to attack somebody, and then attacks that person with a knife, and the result is that that person dies. So that is very bad action. The cetana is very bad, the action is there, the instrument is there, the object is there, and the result is there. But now suppose there is a doctor who also has a knife, actually a kind of medical knife, in order to operate on a person who is very, very sick, and to save the life of that person, he has to use that knife. So the intention of the doctor is to save the life of the patient. He uses a knife, and then he actually saves the life of that person. So the intention is good, but the instrument is there, the person is there, and the object, the patient, is also there. But the result is that the patient lives. So that shows that the intention with which we do something is so very important, and which makes the karma skillful or unskillful. And therefore it is the karma niyama is very important, and the chitta niyama also, because without chitta there is no karma. So we have to use our mind in order to say and to do and to think. And therefore this law of the mind is also something which is very important, and that is also why the Buddha said, well, the mind is sometimes like a wild monkey mind. It's just jumping from one thing to another, and difficult to control. So the monkey doesn't know how to control its own mind. People want to control their minds, but they say it's very difficult, because even if I try to concentrate on some object, then I find my mind is going all over the place. It is thinking about this, about that, about the past, about the future, and it doesn't want to stay with the object that I chose. But anyway, just in case of the monkey, the monkey doesn't know how to let go. There's an example of how they catch a monkey in some Asian countries. They take a coconut, put it on a kind of a cable. They put a hole, a smallish hole into the coconut. They put something very sweet inside the coconut, and they hang this coconut on the cable, and they wait for the monkey. So the monkey smells this very sweetness and goes for it, puts his hand through the hole of the coconut, and as it grabs the what you call the sweet, and then tries to withdraw his arm, it finds it's caught in that coconut, because his fist is wider than when it was narrow and taking that sweet. He tries to get out, get out, get out, and he doesn't know that it's very simple. Namely, you have to let go of that object or that sweet in order to take out your arm. That's how simple it is. Well, of course, old soldiers never die, they say, because old habits of greed and attachment also are not easy to let go of. But it is, on the other hand, when one sees this, when one understands it, when one does it, then one say, ah, that's it. I can free myself by non-attachment. So that is why we have to need to develop the mind, the chitta niyama, the mental factor in our life, by developing various kind of qualities also, like karuna, metta, mudita, and upekkha. Compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Those are things we can develop. But also we can develop mindfulness, awareness, attention on the object that is right in front of us, or maybe what is right within us, like our own breathing, anapanasati. And then not to expect that your mind will stay with that object all the time, but to be aware of the fact, for instance, that it is thinking. Not to condemn it, not to hold on to it, and not to cling to it, and not to identify too much with it, but just to observe it. Then we start to see both our physical body, our mental feelings, our physical feelings, and everything is in a flux. It's changing, 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 and we cannot hold it like, like we want it to be. So in that way, we can develop our mind, and that is meditation, basically, in the sense of tranquility meditation, but even more important, the insight meditation, or vipassana. That will lead to wisdom that we need for freedom from the past, freedom from greed, hatred, and delusion. So, well, we have talked quite a lot about the chitta and also about the kamma, but now there is yet another of the five niyamas, namely the Dhamma niyama. Dhamma has different kind of meanings in the Buddha's teaching. And what the Dhamma means here is actually the laws of nature, natural phenomena. For instance, we are under the influence of the sun. The sun has sun flares and sun spots and different kinds of influence, the heat of the sun, and when the sun, for instance, gets blocked by the moon, then suddenly it's dark and it is cooler, and so many influences. Even the fact that we are kept together in a circle around the sun because of the law of gravity, and then the influence of all the other planets, the sun and the planets and the moon itself also have influences on our life. Just think about what most people in Sri Lanka, but also in India, Burma, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, wherever there's Hinduism and Buddhism, do, is they go, after the birth of their child, they go to the astrologer. and asked the astrologer to draw up the what it is, the position under which the child was born. What is the kendra and what is the different kinds of things that may happen in one's life, the tendencies as for the moment of birth that may happen into the future of that life. So it may seem very strange to some people, but most people in Asia believe firmly in this, and when something happens, well, let's say even for a wedding, one goes back to the astrological chart, whether they match with the girl's chart or the boy's chart. And also when it comes to drastic decisions in life or happenings in life, one did not expect something, but then sometimes it turns out that it was already predicted by the astrologer. Very strange if you have seen the movie, Siddhartha, the Buddha, for instance, when Asita, the astrologer, held Prince Siddhartha and said he's going to be a great man. But unfortunately, well, he's either going to be a king or he's going to be a Buddha if he leaves the palace. And then he says he will be a Buddha, but unfortunately I won't be able to see it because I will die before that. So in that instance, you can say that even with the life of the Buddha, even though he was supposed to become a king, still with his own mind, he changed the course of his life. And maybe we can say that was also already in the stars or in his rekha on the hands, even there. So it's very difficult to say how much freedom we really have as human beings. We hope that we do have, and we trust that we have. Why should we take so much trouble to get a good education and to do a good job and to try to overcome difficulties? If everything was already predestined, we might as well lie down under the mango tree and wait for the fruit to fall into our mouths, isn't it? But it's not exactly like that. We have to do something and we have to do our best. And that also is part of our maybe destiny order, that these things take place well. And also sometimes we may have to counteract certain bad tendencies in us which may be there from previous lives and try to overcome those. When we say sabba papassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada satchitta pariyodapanam etang buddhanu sasanam. So to try and avoid the unskillful and to create and develop the skillful, that is the teachings of the Buddha. And actually the Buddha himself, after his enlightenment, when he went back to the Kapilavastu palace where he grew up and which he left at the age of 29, when he came back and he saw his little son of 7 years by that time, Rahula, he gave him very good ethic teachings, namely, son, before you say something and before you do something, just consider briefly what kind of effect it's going to have on yourself and the other. If it is going to be bad for the other and yourself, don't do it, don't say it. If it's going to be painful for the other but only good for yourself, refrain from doing that or saying it. If it's going to be good for both the other and yourself, just say it, just do it. But if it's going to be, let's say, only good for yourself and not good for the other, then you also should refrain from it. But if it's good for the other person and only a little bit difficult for yourself, you should try to do it anyway to help the other person, to build up your paramitas. Paramitas are yet a whole other subject which we're not going to talk about today, but paramitas, good qualities such as generosity, truthfulness, and patience, and loving kindness, and compassion, wisdom. All those are good qualities which we can try to develop, which will make our lives very good, and influence even those predetermined niyamas, all those laws of the past, the law of the seed, the law of the climate and environment, the previous karma, the mind as it is, and also the nature which has influence on us, which we cannot always prevent, such as unexpected things like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and tsunamis and things like that. But we can learn to face the situations in life with equanimity, upeksha, or upekha. And these kind of things that, Shakespeare said, whether it's nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and by fighting them, to overcome them or to annihilate them, I would say no, it's not like fighting the situation, but to develop equanimity, even-mindedness towards all the ups and downs in life, by understanding, by insight, by wisdom, and by developing the mind and all the good qualities and the good, what is called paramitas. So I just saw that Professor Vatavela had given a chance to people to put questions that I may be able or not. You can ask anything. What I always say is, you can ask anything, but I cannot guarantee an answer. So, Professor, what do you say? Or may I? Yeah, you are muted, by the way. You have to open your mic.
Venerable, they will have to type it and send it either under Q&A or under chat so that we can see their questions. So I've already sent a message, but if they can send it, that will be good. But
I just look here.
Yeah.
Well, one is, will a recording of this program be available? It is being recorded.
That's right.
Recording it on your computer or on the Zoom cloud?
Zoom cloud now. Venerable, Zoom cloud.
You have to send the link for that around to the people.
Yeah.
Ask all the times, please send any questions you have. And then the question is, will this sermon be on YouTube? No, but I'm actually recording it on my Facebook. Facebook.com/Olande.Ananda. The dot is very important between Olande and Ananda. And Olande is spelled as Olande .Ananda.
Venerable, there are one or two questions, if I can just take it up.
Yeah.
One is how meditation will help in Chitta Niyama. I think Venerable is very much involved with the meditation. Maybe a short description of that will be good.
Yeah, I don't see that question, but maybe somebody has.
Yeah, I've got it in advance, so it's not there in that one.
Yeah, so then I hope that my answer or my explanation around the Chitta Niyama would have answered that question already. That, I don't know what else to say about it at the moment. Chitta Niyama has everything to do about the mind, and to develop the mind, it's necessary to do what is called meditation. And then there are basically two types of meditation: the tranquility meditation, which brings some kind of peace of mind, at least maybe what you call temporary peace of mind, but not 100% peace of mind, but it's better than nothing. And then there is what is called insight meditation or vipassana bhavana, which leads to wisdom, basically, to see the three characteristics. The three characteristics of existence are, and that I haven't mentioned yet, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So the anicca means that everything is changing. You start to see when you look at your own body, feelings, mind, that everything is in a flux. Nothing is 100% the same. From the moment you sit down for the meditation and going on, it changes all the time. And then, if that's the case, then we cannot really say that things are 100% satisfactory. That means they are dukkha. They cannot satisfy us forever. Maybe pleasant feelings and pleasant thoughts, pleasant sounds may be able to please us and give us some kind of happiness that is worldly happiness, laukika sukha, but not forever, and therefore it is called as dukkha or unsatisfactory. And if that is the case, then all these things I cannot really call me, mine, or myself, because if it were so, that things were really me, mine, my own, and myself, then I should be able to keep them the way they are. And that doesn't happen. So therefore they are called anatta. So meditation helps us to develop the mind, if you call it chitta, okay. So manasa, you can also call it, they're different, now the word, English word mind covers all these different terms in Pali, chitta and manasa and some other, vijnana. Well, vijnana is consciousness, but those words are sort of interchangeable. But let's put it that way, we are developing the mind. And through development of the mind, that is the chitta in this case, we can, first of all, calm our mind and develop it to good qualities, such as, for instance, if you practice, if you practice metta bhavana, for instance. We haven't talked about that either yet. So metta bhavana, the development of metta or loving kindness for all beings, if you do that, then you develop that quality within yourself, and by sort of wishing it for other people, maybe in general, may all beings be well and happy, silu satyoni dukkhatvani rogivetva, as we do in Sri Lanka in general. You can do it for specific people or you can do it in general, but when you do it in general, even then, your thought vibrations, you know, your mental vibrations which go out of the physical body, they influence what is called the psychosphere, the atmosphere, which is filled with people's vibrations. And these vibrations, if they are good, like loving kindness, wishes for good health even, and for happiness and for peace, then you actually purify the atmosphere around you. You can even know that if a person who is very peaceful and happy enters the room when there are a group of people, let's say, you feel that, that's a nice person coming in. But when a person who is very angry and greedy and, hateful enters the room, then you also feel the opposite. So the development of this metta to overcome hatred, basically, in oneself and spreading the good vibes around one, they can help to purify the world. And actually, that is what the world needs, not only now, but maybe now more than ever.
Venerable, shall I read there's one question. Could you please expand the influence of parents and home and school environment on the first and second niyama? I feel that has a huge influence. Can you confirm this and expand more on this? This has been sent by Chitra Devi Vijay Singh.
Yes, I see that. So You're asking whether it is the parents' home school environment on the first and second niyama. But the first niyama is the bija niyama. The second is the utu niyama. Now, the utu niyama, the climate and the environment includes, yes, that is the parents and the school and the peers, like students around you, and also the climate. Well, you know, if you are going to a nice school and so on. The influence of the parents and home and school environment, yes, so that is actually what children get mostly when they are with the parents. And nowadays, of course, I don't know, after the lockdown, maybe parents think more of, I don't know, maybe they should stay home a little bit more and look after the children and not have two jobs to pay for the two cars and the second house, etc., but more like look after the children. Yeah, this influence of the parents on the children and the home environment is very important for children. So that is, but bija niyama, it's something that comes from the past, I would say. I don't know whether the influence of the parents have anything to do with the bija or the seed of the children for the future generations, maybe too, indirectly. And second niyama being the utu niyama, yes, that is the environmental influence, very much so. The parents have the influence, and the home and parents are, I suppose, the same. And home is also maybe the atmosphere between the siblings, the children in the same house. If they are always quarreling, or parents as well, or whether they are loving and kind to each other, that has definitely influence on the environment. And then the school also, definitely. Some schools are very conducive to the growing up as a good child. And in some schools, I mean, that is not the case. So it doesn't always mean that the more you pay for the school, that the better the children will grow up, because there are examples of international schools where children have gone astray and got spoiled also. Sometimes you want to do the best for your children and give them everything that they want, an iPhone and an iPad and a car at the age of 18 or something like that, and then finally they don't appreciate what the parents have done for them. So it depends, I think, more on the cup of tea when they come home, and the loving kindness of the parents that they beam to their children, and the way that the parents are helping them with their homework, and that kind of influence, I think, is very important. But more important on the second, the utu niyama, than the bija niyama, I would say.
There is another question, Venerable, on the, is it correct that only Kamma Niyama and Chitta Niyama is within one's control?
Yes, in a way you could say that is, because the others are mostly from outside. Bija niyama is from the past, the biological past, basically. That, of course, we cannot really change. Then utu niyama, well, the climate and the environment we can change, but that we have to do again with the chitta niyama. You see, these laws are sort of interactive also, a little bit like the paticca samuppada. If this is, then that comes to be. If this is not, then that doesn't come to be. So, kamma is made by oneself, created, You are the maker of your karma. You are the receiver of the vipaka, or the results of your karma, the Buddha said himself. And the chitta is basically your own mind, not somebody else's mind. So there you can have influence. And yeah, that you can say that kamma and chitta are the ones within one's own control. But of course, kamma niyama is, yeah, okay. We then have to distinguish between previous kamma, which is already done, which is already fixed, which comes, has its fruition in the present and the future, and the karma that we create from moment to moment. That is what we have in our own control. So we cannot control or change the previous karma, but we can control the karma that we are creating from moment to moment.
Well, there's a question on the Q&A. If we advise someone who does or says something wrong, it would be unpleasant for the receiver to be told so. How can one address this situation in keeping with Buddha's advice? There's also another one. Shall I read that also?
If one is suffering from any illness that has no cure at present, for instance, COVID-19, would it be due to karma?
Dharma.
I see. So I'm just reading the first one again. If we advise someone who does or says something wrong, it would be unpleasant for the receiver to be told so. How can one address this situation in keeping with the Buddha's advice? Yeah. It all depends on the intention with which you say something to correct the other person. If you scold them and hurt them and, you know, you blame them, then of course it is difficult. It's not very wise or Buddhistic, I would say, then to do like that. But if you tell somebody for their own sake, you know, that what they're doing is actually not helpful, and it would be better to do it in such a way, a different way, and the intention is that it is not just to blame that person, but rather to to help them to overcome that, and you think that they will become a better person. Not like, yeah, of course, there is another aspect to that. One also has to realize whether oneself is perfect in all aspects. And, you know, as long as we are not 100% perfect, it is easier to try to correct another person, but then they might say, but you're not perfect yourself. So one has to be a little bit careful, I suppose. This, when one suffers from a disease like COVID-19, is it part of karma? Well, that's a really difficult question to answer, I suppose. Not everything is karma. You see, that is something which we already have said. But it is sometimes strange that maybe in one family, one person gets it and another person or the others don't. It's very complex here also, because it depends on also so many, like the contacts that one has had is not only, and also the kind of underlying weaknesses, you know, in health maybe that one has, and yeah, whether one gets it or not get it, yeah, the immune system of that person. So one cannot actually, I think, say that everything depends on the karma, but Who knows? I'm not there to say whether karma is not involved or it is the determining factor. I think there are other more medical factors. Then, you can always say, yeah, but that also depends on previous karma. So a lot of things do depend on karma, but we cannot sort of ascribe everything to karma.
There is one under the chat.
Yes.
Could you please state the sutta number?
Yes. Okay, now I mentioned at the very beginning, maybe they didn't hear that there's no sutra that is called Panchiniyama Sutta, but I was expecting this kind of question a little bit. There is, in the Buddhist commentaries from the 5th to the 13th centuries, we find that Pancha Vidya Niyama, the fivefold Niyama, which occurs in the following texts. Now, one is in the Atta Salini, the commentary attributed to Buddha Gosa on the Dhamma Sangani, the first book of the Theravada Abhidhamma Pitaka. So, in the Atta Salini by Buddha Gosa. Then there is the Sumangala Vilasini, Buddha Gosa's commentary on the Digha Nikaya. And then there is the Abhidhammavatara, a verse summary of the Abhidhamma by Buddha Gosa's contemporary Buddha Datta. So like that, there are commentaries, but there is no one sutta which has the the Panchaniyama. But if you Google, that's what I would do. Go to google.com and then put the Panchaniyamas in Buddhism, because Panchaniyamas also you find in Hinduism in slightly different form. So if you put it like that, you will get quite a lot of your answers, your questions answered.
So, Venerable, I think the time is, we have exceeded by 5 minutes, but if it is okay, I think Venerable can wind up.
Yes, I would like to wind up with a blessing, if that's all right. Yes. And all those who have participated, at the moment there are 51 participants there, and some participants also in my Facebook already, that wish you all good health, especially, and also peace of mind, and all the blessings of whoever may be giving you blessings, and the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sarasati bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sarasati bhavantu te Bhavatu Sambha Mangalam Rakkantu Sambha Devata Sambha Sanghanu Bhavena Sarasati Bhavantu Te Nakatya Kabhutanam Papaghani Varana Paritasanu Bhavena Hantu Te Sam Upadave Devo Vasatu Kalena Sasaram Pati Hetucha Pito Bhavatu Loko Cha Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko.
Thank you very much, Venerable Olande Ananda Thero, for this sermon. We are indeed grateful to you, because all the participants who are here are real devotees who are dedicated and who are followers of Buddhism and also practicing Buddhism. And I think that from our side, from the All Ceylon Buddhist Congress, we feel that the practice is very, very important, and the Dhamma, the Dhamma Desana that your Venerable delivered today was of very much practical importance to all of us who attended. And may the blessings of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha be with you, and we all very thankful, and blessings to you, Venerable, in all your activities, especially on the meditation activities. I know that there are many from foreign countries who are attending this Dharma Desana, and they are your followers, and may they also attain the bliss of Nirvana. Sadhu, sadhu.